people. How's everyone doing? Welcome to a new episode of Psicoactivo. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I wanted to tell you guys that I feel very grateful for the way people have been responding to my videos. Yesterday, I released two videos, one about Tucker Carlson, and another one was the dubbed version of the Julio Darwish interview, who is the Mexican pilot who testified in Mexican Congress last year. And the response has been great. So I'm gonna ask you, if you find any value on this content, please like, comment, share, subscribe. It really helps the channel move forward, and it goes a long way, you know. But more importantly, please keep the conversation going. If you think I missed something, if you think I didn't cover something well, please let me know. I am a journalist, and I like it when people let me know where I can improve. So thank you for that. For today's video, last week, Christian and I covered the Steven Spielberg upcoming movie about UFOs, which is slated to release in 2026. Coincidentally, it's going to be the same month or around the same month when a new Star Wars film comes out, and it's going to compete with them, right? But Christian wanted to like wax poetic a little bit and see what are the options that Steven Spielberg has. And I wanted to like go a little deeper on that, because although I know on Down to Earth we go deep in the politics aspect of this and the disclosure movement, I think that we also need to go deep into the literature that has existed for decades and talk about some of the most important names in the UFO topic, especially for people who are new to this, who I suspect are gonna increase over the next couple of years. So I wanted to go through just a few of the many theories there are of what this phenomenon might be. First of all, I want to show you guys a picture of two of the people who I consider the biggest legends, English-speaking legends in the UFO topic, fathers of ufology, if you may. These people are Dr. Jacques Vallee, who's Steven Spielberg portrayed the French character on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The French character is based on Dr. Jacques Vallee. And obviously, this movie is slightly based on real life events. He can't really say that they're real life events because none of the topic was proven by then. They didn't have like government confirmation like we do today. They didn't have the DOD confirming that UFOs are real and we don't know what they are, which has been said by multiple officials, including presidents or presidential candidates. So back then they didn't have that. So Spielberg couldn't use that based on real life events at the beginning of the film until this announcement from Spielberg. I think that the only ones who are actually creating any type of content based on real life documents or events are the people from Estimate of the Situation. I have an interview with one of them, which is fairly recent, and then the Steven Spielberg news came out. And I thought it was very interesting because now he is presented with a unique opportunity. I mean, if it was going to be someone, it would be him, right? Of putting that at the beginning of the movie. And I don't know which of the many theories he's going to use. I'm going to tell you just a few of them that I think he may use based on books from authors who are considered bigwigs in the UFO topic today. Let's go with the first one, which is Dr. Diana Pasulka. Dr. Diana Pasulka is a religious studies professor at North Carolina University or South Carolina University. Uh, she has a book called American Cosmic. To those who know, American Cosmic deals with the story of a NASA scientist and an immunologist whose names have been revealed since then. One of them is Dr. Gary Nolan. You already know who that is. He's one of the people who is leading the effort right now. The other one was slightly more mysterious. His name is Dr. Tim Taylor, whose name was revealed recently by Jesse Michaels on his documentary about T. Townsend Brown, about the anti-gravity stuff. And this is one of the stories that I think could fit perfectly into a movie format. Dr. Pasulka confirmed that it had been picked up by a movie studio. I don't know if it's going to be a series or if it's going to be a movie, but that's one of the options. And it's very fascinating because they visit one of the sites from the 1940s crashes. It is not Roswell, it is a different crash in New Mexico too, and they pick up materials there, which Dr. Gary Nolan still has to this day. That's one, okay? The other one is Tom DeLonge's Secret Machines book, which, to those who don't know, he has two versions. One that is fiction, and another one that is nonfiction, more informative. Those are the ones that I've read so far. He wrote those with a legendary writer, Peter Levenda, who wrote like a version of the legendary grimoire called Necronomicon. Tom DeLonge was very smart to pick Mr. Lavenda for that book. But I think that the story that Legendary Pictures picked up, which was announced by Tom DeLonge, is the fiction book, which I haven't read yet. But it basically deals with this main story, right? So those are two that could happen. And they tell different stories that are fascinating. One has to do with the secrecy and all the black tech and all that stuff. The other one has to do with scientists and all these downloads they get and how involved the people from NASA and Space Force are in the phenomenon. I happen to think that Dr. Tim Taylor might be one of the people who are involved in the crash retrieval programs. Nothing confirmed yet, but I think so. And then we move on to the extra tempestrial model, which is by Dr. Michael P. Masters, who I was talking about earlier. Okay, so this first clip is from just a little excerpt from Project Unity's interview to Dr. Michael P. Masters about how he thinks the disclosure process is going to be like. I'm going to leave it right here.
It feels different this time. And honestly, I'm of the opinion, and I've been saying this for a while now, that I don't think it's up to them, the government or any of these agencies. I think it's ultimately up to the people coming here in these craft to decide when it's time for humanity to know. They've been here for thousands, tens of thousands of years, you could argue. And it does seem like we're approaching a point where we could finally wrap our heads around it and, not freak out as a society, like the whole Orson Welles thing. And right. It's not going to tank the economy. Maybe at first there'll be some disruptions, but if anything, I think it'll bring us together as humans beyond anything else. All of these petty divides that we construct around the other, how we manufacture the other, I think those will eventually fade away. And clearly we're not at that point yet. We're highly polarized in many different capacities, but I get the sense that it's not coming from any, Majestic 12 type organization or the government of any one nation, but it's the visitors themselves. And I do get the sense that it's time for them to reveal themselves in whatever capacity that may be, which is kind of exciting if that's the case. I mean, maybe I'm just hopelessly optimistic. But I do think that it feels different. It kind of feels like we're moving in that direction.
Okay, so Dr. Masters, as you can see, he's an anthropologist. And his book of the future human hypothesis is very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. He goes through many cases which detail many things about this being a possibility. And I think that if Spielberg would do a movie about one of these theories, this one is right up his alley, to be honest with you. Because it deals with time travel, it deals with potential many encounters that have happened throughout history. It deals with this time dilation phenomenon that goes on with people who go through these experiences. The abduction phenomenon. It has all of it, right? So I think if Spielberg went through that route, it would be like instant classic in sci-fi. And he can add that based on real life events aspect to it. Then I'm going to show you a clip of Dr. Jacques Vallee, who spoke at the Seoul conference, and he talks about how the phenomenon is viewed right now compared to back when he started doing this over 60 years ago. And I'm going to leave a clip right here.
It's wonderful to see that science can come to grips with problems like this. You just have to wait 65 years, which is what happened to me. I was hired to develop a generalized database system for the campus and the medical school. And I took the opportunity, since I had the computer, to implement catalogs of unexplained UFO cases. Again, this was 1973. Here you see President Clinton having a private talk with his science advisor, Professor Jack Gibbons, strongly suggested to President Clinton to remove the secrecy and the stigma that surrounded the UFO issue. And as we all know, the secret was not lifted. We need to apply AI at the level where we have already done serious investigation with boots on the ground to clean up the sample. The real solution lies in the more subtle data categories, those we have neglected all along, 5, 6, and 7. And in the future, that's where I want to spend most of my time.
Okay, so the thing with Dr. Jacques Vallee, he has this book called Passport to Magonia. I'm going to leave links of everything in the description, but this book essentially talks about the phenomenon being present throughout millennia, and people, depending on the time they're in, and depending on the place they're in, and the society that exists in that specific moment, is what they see in the sky. That's why many of the events that he describes in his book, one is the Lady of Fatima. There's many biblical events. There's another one from the 1500s in Germany that depicts clearly. I'm gonna put it right here. It clearly depicts a black triangle and a lot of orbs around. Imagine what that would have been like to see back then. Would have been incredible. So Dr. Vallee presents the hypothesis that this phenomenon disguises itself depending on the time as something different. So they were angels at one time, demons at another. Right now they're extraterrestrials, and it has been changing. But he believes it is the same phenomenon. It only has like a multifaceted aspect to it. And I find that very fascinating. The other man I'm going to talk about, who's a legend, I think, he sadly passed away back in 2009, is John Keel, who wrote the Mothman Prophecies, which has been turned into a movie. But more importantly, he wrote the Operation Trojan Horse, which is the book that I recently finished. And he goes into deep detail about the phenomenon, how it also plays with human perception, and how whenever someone looks at an orb or something in the sky, if you're accompanied by someone, someone may not see it, and the person who sees it can see something different, and the other one sees something entirely different. And I find that really interesting. But John Keel is a very interesting figure because I'm going to show you a clip of some prophecies that he was told about of real life events, which deal. His book, The Mothman Prophecies, deal with these things that he was told by non-human intelligence, allegedly. But he talks about this on Coast to Coast with Art Bell, the legendary Art Bell. I'm going to leave a clip right here.
The Mothman Prophecies, why the word prophecies?
Because I started, when I was chasing these things, I started getting a lot of mysterious phone calls.
Oh.
And today we have satellites up there that can interfere with any telephone on Earth.
Right.
And in those days we didn't have those satellites, so I couldn't really blame the government for this. These phone calls were usually very mechanical voices, like you get today from a computer, but we didn't have real PCs in those days either.
Right.
And they predicted a number of things that came true right on the nose.
Like what?
Martin Luther King.
His assassination?
Yes. They told me that he would be shot in the throat. And I took it so seriously, I spent some desperate days trying to contact his group. And I failed. Later I learned that many other people had also gotten this prediction one way or another and had tried to contact him.
Wow.
I think that's, as you know, his last speech was, "I've been to the mountaintop." And it was almost a farewell speech.
Right.
He must have been aware of all this. There were predictions that the Pope was going to be assassinated. And there was an incident where a man dressed as a priest attacked the Pope with a black knife. Unfortunately, the Pope's guards subdued this man, but it was a real attempt. There were a lot of predictions, which are, of course, in some of my books outlined in full.
Was this coming, John, at Point Pleasant or following Point Pleasant, or what?
This would usually be when I was back in my New York apartment that I'd get these crazy phone calls.
Do you think that it had something to do with Point Pleasant?
It was all interconnected because I was going back and forth to Point Pleasant frequently. And now that's all.
So these are only just a few of the many people who have different kinds of theories about this phenomenon. There's also Patrick Harper and the Daimonic Reality books that he has. There's the crypto-terrestrial model, or crypto-terrestrials. There's Whitley Strieber's books, Communion, that talks about all the abduction phenomena and the sexual aspect to all these abductions. And there are many names throughout history. Dr. John Mack, Dr. Stanton Friedman. Whatever road Steven Spielberg decides to take, I am 100% positive that it's going to be a banger of a movie. And I also believe that he's going to put that title at the beginning based on real life events. But what do you think? I want to ask you, which of the many hypotheses about the UFO phenomenon do you think Steven Spielberg will use for his film? We didn't get to break it down on Down to Earth, but that's why I made this video. I think it's important to play a little bit with our imagination, and with that, I'm gonna leave you guys. I just gotta say that tomorrow there's gonna be no video until I think Sunday or Monday, because I'm gonna visit Christian Harloff to Los Angeles. I'm gonna go to the Comedy Store, meet him in person for the first time. I'm surely gonna meet a lot of people from the Collider crew and other comedians. I'm really excited about it. I'm gonna bring my camera, take a few pictures before and after the event. So I'm gonna be dropping some pictures over the next week. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. And until next time, bye-bye.